Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Mahor Mahor. My pranams at the feet of revered Maharaj, pranams at the feet of Mataji, and namaskars to all of you. It's wonderful being here. Really, it's a very beautiful place for a retreat. I would like to dwell mainly on sadhana and, some of the very important things about sadhana. And let me go straight to the masters before I begin. Somebody asked Sri Ramakrishna, how does one get the knowledge of Brahman? And he said, Nangta used to say, that is his Vedanta guru, he would say, when one merges the mind in the buddhi and the buddhi in bodha, then one gets the knowledge of Brahman. When one merges the mind in buddhi, it's kind of when the wave starts recognizing it's water. But the entire mind should do that. It should not just be an intellectual exercise. The entire mind merging into buddhi and buddhi into bodha, pure awareness. And you have the knowledge of Brahman. And Ramana Maharishi used to say, there is no mistaking consciousness when it is pure. Only when it is mixed up with something about the mind, something to do with the mind, that's when we have all the confusion. That's when we have questions, we have doubts. But the thing in itself, you cannot doubt it. Usually in sadhana, what we do is we make this fundamental mistake of trying to accommodate Brahman, as it were, into our mind. See, all sadhaks do this at some point because we want to see the truth through our mind. But that's not how it happens. When you actually perform sadhana from the first person perspective, you cannot accommodate consciousness into mind. Mind is what gets activated by consciousness. So then the method is quite different. That is why sadhana is so very necessary. You understand Vedanta only through sadhana. You know Vedanta only through sadhana. And without sadhana, it is almost impossible because continuously we will be taking the third person perspective again and again. So it's very important to get the feel of what we are talking, pure consciousness, pure awareness in ourselves. And for that, I would like to give you a few clues. In fact, I'm going to restrict my talk only to this, something which will be really very useful to our inner life. See, one thing is, suppose we made this entire hall very dark, absolutely no light, so you can't perceive anything, you can't see anything. Suppose you can't even hear anything, it's all completely dark. And your senses are not giving you any information. Suppose also that you cannot think, you cannot mentally cognize anything. Still, would you doubt I am present? So what is this level of, ultra cognition? You go beyond the normal cognizing process. What is it that gives us this feeling of being, existence, I am? If we just close into this, you will see that this I am sense in us has actually two parts. One is what is called the aham vritti, and the second is called the aham tattva or aham sphuran. Now I'm coming back to a very Vedantic language. The aham vritti has to do with the thought of I am. But the aham sphuran or aham tattva has to do with I awareness. You don't even say I when you are fully aware. It's just amness, being. You just are. So being able to discern these two in a very, I would say, rarefied state of mind is important in sadhana to come to an understanding of Vedanta and all this. Because usually we are thinking of I am in terms of contributing to your personality sense. This is not what we are trying to do. It's not about building a bigger, higher personality. It is about finding the very foundation of the thought process. It is about finding awareness, pure being. And for that, we have to be able to discern aham vritti from aham sphuran. This becomes very important in this path, especially the Yoga-Vedanta path. This becomes important. And to do that, it is important to practice some technique. That is why the necessity of sadhana. It is pretty obvious that the reality is always as it is. Right now, right here. In fact, anybody who has had self-knowledge had it, it's right now, right here. But there's a but to it. Our mind has this tendency to go back to its memories. The whole mind may not be, supporting the project. All these problems can happen. Due to that reason, we stick to a particular technique. You take up a particular sadhana and you stick to it. So this becomes very important when it comes to sadhana, because the nature of the mind is to, relax and go into your memories from time to time. In fact, most of your thinking is memory. And even when perceptions and meditations are closed, like in a state of meditation, you will fall back on memory from time to time. It's there in the Bhagavad Gita. The recommendation given is atma samstham mana kritva na kinchidapi chintayet. Okay, focus on the self within you and don't think. Like give a little stop to the thought process so that it doesn't carry you away. That's the only purpose at the time of sadhana. Now, the Bhagavad Gita also says, yato yato nischarati manas chanchalam asthiram tatastato niyam yaitat atmaniva vashamnet. Which means as many times as it will go out, you bring it in. Bring it to focus on the pure being within you, the sense of pure existence within you, pure consciousness, what we say. And there will come a point, when you keep doing this, there will come a point when prashanta manasam hyenam yoginam sukham uttamam upaiti shanta rajasam brahma bhutam akalmasham. Which means there will come a point when the rajas in you becomes completely shant. It will lead to prashanti, deep inner calmness, stillness. That is why awareness is stillness. That is why pure consciousness is best found in stillness, because this overactive mind of ours, which is constantly given to thought and, trying to always bringing out memory, that process stops. So prashanta manasam hyenam, and it is the touch of pure joy, pure bliss. And the yogi feels it in that state. And that's why it is the touch of Brahman. When all his rajas is exhausted, he has come into a very sattvic, urjita sattva state, as it were. He feels the touch of Brahman within himself. So this is the process outlined, usually. Because you see, we are ordinary practitioners and it is required to stick to a process to go into something like this. So inquiry into who am I will lead us into this kind of an understanding. And inquiry and meditation, that is why becomes the path. At least that's my path, so that's what I can tell you about. Inquiry and meditation. Inquiry will, to use a very beautiful metaphor used by Ramana Maharishi, he would say, the log of inquiry will light the pyre of illumination. And finally, the log gets consumed in the fire. You use inquiry like that. Who am I? And the continued sense of pure being within us, if we can catch, but don't try to catch it in your mind. At some point, you drop mind and go actually beyond that. Because consciousness is all that there is, and in it, there is mind function and not the other way around. So, if we can catch hold of something like this through a process, actually I shouldn't even use the word process. Any word you use is not the right word. This path is like that. But if you can stick to a technique, it leads us to this kind of an experience. If the only continuum within us, pure consciousness, can be held for a considerable period of time, it leads to self-knowledge, self-realization. So that is when we understand that is the only truth that there is, and there is no duality, actually speaking. Duality is just a setup made by the mind. There is no time, space, and causation even. In fact, that's also something made up by the mind. But for this to be understood in the first person, some such inner transformative experience is required. In fact, that is what sadhana is meant for. So I will be showing you a PPT on this. Again, PPT is a very bad means to convey these ideas because again, it's taking a totally third person perspective. But what to do? This is all we have. The actual truth is Mona, we know that. But, but this PPT will help us understand certain concepts about this path. And I think that will help our life of sadhana in general. So I would like to go into this PPT. Okay. So just keep your eyes on the slide. Yes. When we usually ask this question, who am I? See, this is what is happening. The light of pure consciousness reflected in the mind is called Chidabhas. It is the light of awareness that pervades the buddhi and it generates our empirical awareness, our sense of being and the aham vritti. This is technically called the jiva, the entity that designates itself as I. But we are asked to go beyond this because the real I is the aham sphuran, the scintillation of pure being, you can say the pulsation or throb of awareness within us. So when we go beyond this, the means usually, you see, I'm just putting here the first line of treatment given is you are asked to shut off the modifications of the mind for the simple reason the mind can tangentially go somewhere if it gets carried away by a thought process. So that is the reason it is being done to remove distractions and not to generate knowledge actually, because self is ever-present reality. The mind is creating all the problem. So that's the first line of treatment. And then that goes on to working to intensify the reflected consciousness. Why we try to do this is we are trying to clarify mind, as it were. Clarifying mind to get this, but Vedanta will actually tell you, Advaita Vedanta especially will tell you, none of these processes are going to work because reality is not a construct. You don't construct it in any way. It is ever there. All these processes are only to remove ignorance. It is to remove distraction, to remove ignorance, to remove obstacles. Sadhana is actually meant only for that and not to create a sense of self. So Vedanta will tell you that all you need to do is clean the lens of the mind and the light will sparkle. So aham sphuran, which is a very key word actually, very important for all sadhaks, is the scintillating pure consciousness, the light of pure awareness and being that can be felt in a clean mind. This is the experience to be aimed at. And it is stimulated by inquiry and meditation. So from the first person perspective, it will only feel like just intense awareness, abundant self-awareness. It will feel like that. So this state is to be first caught hold of before we dive into self-knowledge. All these things become important. And then the key differences, that is why between ordinary perception and self-knowledge will be, ordinary perception is vritti-based. Vritti means a modification of the mind. But self-knowledge is not at all vritti-based. That's why it has nothing to do with the mind, actually speaking. It is aham sphuran based. It is the feel of awareness within you. It is based on that. And the medium of perception is dense in ordinary perception, what we call paroksha anubhuti. And then the medium of perception, aparoksha anubhuti, is very clear. That is why then you get the sense of true being. And in paroksha anubhuti, you have intermittent awareness, but in aparoksha anubhuti, it is the complete blossoming of your awareness. In ordinary perception, it's a mediated knowledge. How many factors are required for you to know? Most of you are acquainted with these ideas, so I'm going a little fast. And then in aparoksha anubhuti, it is absolutely unmediated. It's immediate. It's instantaneous. It's spontaneous. It's right now. Even now, it's that way. But to hold on to it and keep it up for a long time, to actually get the feel of pure being. It's good to stick to some kind of sadhana. So Atma Vichar actually seeks to find the foundations of self-awareness by penetrating into the immediate and incontrovertible experience of one's existence as aham, I. It is an intuitive process leading to direct mystical experience. I don't mean mysterious something, but it's a very rarefied state of being, pure being. But I was very happy when they announced this was a sadhana retreat, because sadhana is all that matters, finally. And if we try to understand this state through, through the aham vritti and aham sphuran, which I told you about, these are the fundamental differences. You can discern these two at the time of sadhana. Aham vritti is what we think we are, but aham sphuran is just what we are. Aham vritti is the I thought. Aham sphuran is the I throb, or the real sense of being. And then aham vritti is purely concocted, built by memories, opinions of others, and cognitions. But aham sphuran is the feel of scintillating awareness or being that comes without a thought process. Aham vritti leads to a sense of the personality self. But aham sphuran, it is nothing to do with the personality, in fact. So it is not created by memories or cognitive or learning experiences, and it is spontaneous, cannot be generated, and the sadhana is only to keep out obstacles. Aham vritti has different shades, obviously, so the discovery of which lies in the realm of psychology and not in the realm of spirituality. Today we are covering all that in what is called contemplative psychology. But aham sphuran, it doesn't have any shades. It is what comes when you empty mind. It is what is ever-present reality. And aham vritti is dwelling on it, strengthens the personality sense and the ego. But aham sphuran is in the realm of, that's the realm of spirituality, and one has almost negligible bodily or personality awareness, and immersed in it takes one to the source. Is aham sphuran then not the source? It's the direct link to the source. It is when you get the feel of the self. And it comes to, the remarkable thing about this is, it comes to almost everyone some point or the other in life. Even a whole lot of these IIT students told me, Mataji, we have felt this. Only we don't know how to hold on to it, or that is the fundamental sense of my existence. I didn't know that. But it came to me. There have been times when we have touched this. That's why then we ask for Vedanta, we ask for this kind of knowledge. So this is something, we are born with it, sort of. In fact, we are not thinking of awareness. We are thinking in awareness. So this is the state of existence, true existence. And then the characteristics of this aham sphuran, it is one of the immediate effects of the awakened self. And its characteristics are spontaneity, light, blissfulness in the heart. Experience cannot be forgotten ever, and it is akin to prajna, what is called prajna in Vedanta. It's not memory. It is not even cognition. It is pure awareness. And that's why those who actually got it couldn't speak much about it, in fact. Because how can you even conceptualize something like awareness? You can't even make it a concept, not to speaking of it. So it's only, you just have to dive into the method and come to a clear understanding of our own being. See, being that, we are asking for it. And so that's why sadhana is only about removing obstacles to this knowledge, not to generate self-knowledge. And if we intensify our sadhana, it will naturally come to some such experience which will give us, it's of the nature of insight, and it will give us a deep faith in what we are doing. So everything is sadhana based. Sadhana is meant to keep out obstacles, not to generate knowledge, and the ever-present resplendent self has no causal relationship with anything. It is not revealed by the mind or any process of the mind. That's why the truth is Advaita Vedanta. What Advaita says, that alone can logically, it's the logical truth about our existence. No process of mind can actually take you to it. But mind creates obstacles, so you use a process of the mind to remove the obstacles of the mind. That's the idea. Like Thakur used to say this, you use one thorn to remove another. Sri Ramakrishna used to give this example. Yes, you use one thorn to remove another, And then you throw away both. Yes, you throw away the knowledge also. You use knowledge to remove ignorance, but you go beyond the parameters of knowing. That is the idea. So it is not revealed by the mind or any process of the mind. Mind is transcended through sadhana, and the self alone remains. So this is the thing which I just spoke about. Sri Ramakrishna says, when a thorn enters the sole of your foot, you have to get another thorn. You then remove the first thorn with the help of the second. Afterwards, you throw away both. Because it's the state of pure being, and no process of knowing can take you to it. But you use a process of knowing to get rid of the obstacles and the ignorance. You clean up the mind with the mind, and then you throw it away. That's the idea. So from sanya, our normal conscious experience, to prajna, this is the way. Sanya is awareness reflected in a normal mind which makes the mind conscious. But prajna is abundant self-awareness, spontaneous, which is ever existent by itself. See, this is the beauty of consciousness, pure being, self. It is conscious, it's the only thing conscious by itself. The rest is all borrowing awareness and functioning. So prajna is abundant self-awareness and cannot be, that is why it cannot be obtained in the realm of vrittis. Once you have the knowledge with you, you have the experience with you, you can function in the realm of vrittis and magically. But at the time of sadhana, I'm pinning down the state of siddhi, and that is what it is. So sanya gets transformed to prajna only via sadhana. That's why sadhana is all important, all important. We can never say, oh, I am already water, so I don't mind being a wave. If I say that just now, I'll be in trouble. Although I'm already water, as long as I'm the wave, I realize it a bit that I am water, and then I play out my life as a wave. I can do that. So sadhana becomes very important for the sadhak. That is when one realizes one is knocking at a door from within. See, at the point of this level of knowledge, you realize I knocked and the door opened, but I was knocking from within. Because you are the aware, pure consciousness you are seeking. We are the self which we are trying to hunt through sadhana and all this. That's the great irony of the spiritual life, you know. Ultimately, the utility of all sadhana is, it will show you the futility of sadhana. Grace only will matter. But you have to exhaust we have to exhaust all our energies, all our capacities in sadhana to come to that realization. So atma samstam mana kritva na kinchidapi chintayet is a very important thing in the Bhagavad Gita. Getting absorbed in the self, one thinks of nothing else. So this is about bringing the substratum to the forefront. Sadhana enables the very foundation or substratum of the mind to come to the forefront. To be intensely aware is a far more covetable state, as then no thought process is required to know. It is the highest intelligence untinged by memory. Yes? Is this making sense? Yes. All spiritual experiences happen spontaneously. Knowledge of self can be glimpsed just by self-inquiry. See, there's no doubt about that. A very right mind doesn't even require a process of meditation. It doesn't require any process, in fact. But it should be a mind of that caliber. Just the Mahavakya, or not even the Mahavakya, and you are in it. But stabilization in the experience comes through sadhana. I remember Ramana Maharishi used to say, I did not even know the words Atman and Brahman. When I heard people talking about this, reading the scriptures and talking about it, I realized that they are talking about my state. And how did he attain it? Straight, no process. You know it. The fear of death came over him, and just at that moment, he just realized a very ripe mind can do that. But for all of us, well, we know how good our mind is, right? So then sadhana becomes important. So then as the prajna sanskars build up, it leads to self-realization. This is the normal course of development in sadhana. And sadhana determines, that is why, the extent of manifestation of inner divinity. There's no doubt inner divinity in its fullness is there. But for us to experience it, manifest it, the more purified and trained the system, the better the manifestation of the inner light. In fact, that is the difference between man and man. Swamiji says. So the path of self-inquiry, the aham vritti, that is the I thought, is muddled because it refers to the self in terms of thought, ego and body. But aham sphuran is the clearest and most undoubted experience of the pure I am. The amness is the feel of pure consciousness. It is pure existence, consciousness and bliss. Shankaracharya says this in Atma Bodh. You don't require a lighted lamp does not need another lamp to illumine its light. It's like that. Because the self is self-luminous. Yes, you don't require a torch to see the sun. So then, self-enquiry will light the fire of self-effulgence and get consumed in it. This consummation is nididhyasan. The thought, who am I? See, this is what I told you about. The thought, who am I, will destroy all other thoughts. And like the stick used for stirring the burning pyre, it will itself in the end get destroyed. This is how inquiry can lead directly into the state. So the milestones on the quest, you will find in Vivekachudamani, Adi Shankaracharya himself outlines. See, Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan, you know these steps. But Manan, Nididhyasan, he says reflection should be considered 100 times superior to hearing. Actually, this is one school of Advait Vedanta which says this. I wouldn't say this is the final thing, because one school of Advait Vedanta, it's actually called the Bhamati school. It says this. Reflection should be considered 100 times superior to hearing, and meditation 100,000 times superior even to reflection. But the Nirvikalpa Samadhi is infinite in its results. One gets one kind of knowledge by listening about God, another kind when one practices spiritual discipline, yet another kind when God himself reveals himself to him, Sri Ramakrishna says. So it is important to understand these things through sadhana, through meditation. It is important to do that. I remember that beautiful prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi. He would say, "Oh Lord, give me only that knowledge which is born of prayer." Sadhana will tell us how to proceed. Yogo yogena jnatavyo yogo yogat pravartate, which means the meditative process itself will guide us further. So that is why Sri Ramakrishna has said something like this, and it is important, all these Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan, and absorption in the higher state of consciousness, all this becomes important. If you actually enter into sadhana, you will understand the way our mind functions and how much is required to actually transcend that. Although reality is ever present, through an insight you can get it. The mind will keep creating blocks till the end. The mind will do all it will, play out all that it has done. So for that, we must be equipped for that. That is why sadhana. And that sadhana bal, the strength born of sadhana, becomes very important. In fact, sadhana is something so beautiful. Every day is you get rejuvenated. Every day is fresh. And every day you start with a clean mind, with a beautiful mind. Every sadhana will give this kind of a very refreshing experience. And that's when Vedanta and Advait Vedanta especially will become real. Vivekananda used to say, Advait Vedanta is the simplest way in which you can put truth for one who has gone through the sadhana. No, he didn't say this, that for one who has gone through the sadhana. He just said, is the simplest way in which you can put truth. But we realize it when the entire mind is supporting the cause, supporting the effort. That's the whole point which I wanted to make. I think it's about time. Yes, we can take up Q&A on this.
Namaste, my name is Maitreyi. Lots of steps. I'm going to ask you if you can give a simple, practical application of just for a beginner. So, okay, if I am the beginner, should I start? So, if in one sentence, wherever you think would be beneficial. Thank you.
See, the very first steps of Vedant are this Sadhan Chatushtai. You heard about it from Maharaj. Vivek. Vivek goes very deep. And due to Vivek is Vairagya. What is this Vivek about? That's the first step, I would say, for a beginner. It is being able to see, when you ask a question like, who am I? It is to be able to go to the depths of this question. This question should not be an intellectual exercise. In fact, no answer should be forthcoming. You must just go into a stillness which will give you a deep sense of pure awareness. So in Vivek is that stage where you are able to discern the aham, vritti and the aham sphuran. I would say that is Vivek for a sadhak, where I'm able to see that the usual I thought that I have contributes to my sense of personality, which is just a superficial crust of my being. But the actual thing is, I'll get it only through aham sphuran, the I awareness, which is actually throbbing in my heart, but covered up by my mind, by my thought process. So this much if I understand, it's a huge step in spiritual life. Starting point is Vivek always. And not Vivek, I discriminate between the real and the unreal outside. First start with yourself. What is real in me and what is changing? Then we'll go to the outside. Sadhana is always transforming one's normal awareness into a deeper level. So start with yourself. And Vivek means this, it begins this way. I start seeing that I am more than, I cannot be this body and mind merely. It's an insult to just identify with a body and mind. The day we understand this, all this empowerment and enlightenment, we'll be really enlightened on this planet. And this is so very important. That is why starting point is Vivek always in Vedanta. Become very serious and think about it and still yourself and ask the question. And you'll see Vivek is the most important thing. Yes.
Namaste. My name is Sunny. I've had this question for a long time. If we assume, okay, there is only one, and now I get it, I realize it, how would I know? Because there's no other to know.
That's the point. Yes, see, usually when we say knowing something, we are using a process of knowledge, isn't it? When you know something, you're using the mind, you're using your power of attention, and through a vritti you are knowing, through a modification of your mind. Nothing of that applies in this knowledge. Nothing of this applies in this knowledge. It is not vritti jnana. See, that's why it is so very difficult to describe it or even conceptualize it. It's so very difficult. The only way you can enter into it is you ask the question, you inquire using a mental question, but then you start, somehow you clear the mind enough to feel the sense of pure being. That is why you have to put down the thought process at the time of sadhana. If thoughts are constantly moving in the mind, you will keep vritti sarupyam itaratra, Yoga Sutra says, you keep going their way. They'll carry you along their waves. So all that you can do is stop thinking in a very, very deeply conscious state and see for yourself what awareness can mean. You just have to see in that state. But if you use all these practices, like meditation, shravan, manan, all these, it will help you go into a really deeply conscious state. Deeply conscious state, where if you put that question and stop getting distracted by thoughts, I think some sense of the feel of awareness will definitely come. But again, I'm telling you, don't try to search for the self in the mind. It's a wrong process. But you're only using it to put away the distracting thoughts and the ignorance generated by the mind. So you use a process of the mind to get rid of the mind, actually. Yes.